Greed builds empires that time will turn to dust. When we look at the history of our planet Earth, we see many empires that were built with the intention of lasting forever. Greed is what drives them, and greed is what brings them down. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Join me as we explore the greed that builds empires only for time to turn them to dust. Let's get started. First up, the Spanish Empire. The Spanish Empire was a global empire during the late 15th and the 16th century. It was the first modern empire in history, and it was built on the greed of gold and glory. Spain had discovered the Americas and the Philippines and had opened up trade routes to Asia. This brought in an influx of wealth into the country and made Spain one of the richest countries in Europe. But this wealth did not last. Instead, Spain became one of the poorest countries in Europe by the 18th century, and the reason for this was because of their greed. They had exploited their colonies for their own gain and had not invested in the development of their own country. If they had done so, they could have become one of the most powerful countries in the world. But no, instead they chose greed, and that led to their downfall. The Aztec Empire. The Aztec Empire was one of the largest and most powerful empires in pre-Columbian America. It was known for its wealth and power, and its capital city Tenochtitlan was one of the largest cities in the world. But despite all of this, the empire was built on human sacrifice and war. The Aztecs were a warlike people, and they were constantly at war with neighboring tribes. They would capture enemy warriors and sacrifice them to their gods. This was the main source of wealth for the empire. But this wealth did not last. In 1521, the Spanish conquistadors arrived in Tenochtitlan. They were led by Hernán Cortés, and they had come to conquer the Aztec Empire. The Spanish were able to defeat the Aztecs because of their superior technology and weapons. The Aztecs were fighting with spears and bows and arrows, while the Spanish had guns and steel armor. The Aztecs were also weakened by diseases brought over by the Spanish. Smallpox and measles killed thousands of Aztecs. In the end, the Spanish were able to capture Tenochtitlan, and the Aztec Empire was no more. The Aztec Empire was destroyed by the greed of the Spanish conquistadors. They were only interested in the gold and silver of the Aztecs, and they did not care about the culture or the people. The Roman Empire. The Roman Empire was one of the largest and most powerful empires in the ancient world. It lasted for centuries, and its influence can still be seen today. But the empire was built on conquest and war. Rome was constantly expanding its territory, and it would use military force to do so. This led to many wars with other civilizations. But Rome was victorious in most of these wars, and it was able to grow to become the largest empire in the Mediterranean. Despite its size, the Roman Empire was very weak. There were frequent civil wars, and the empire was never able to fully recover from them. In 476 AD, the Western Roman Empire fell, and this marked the end of the empire. The Roman Empire fell because of the greed of its leaders. They were always fighting with each other, and this made the empire weak and vulnerable. It also did not help that Rome was very corrupt. The leaders were only interested in their own power and wealth, and they did not care about the good of the empire. The Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Empire was a major power in the Middle East and North Africa for centuries. It was known for its wealth and its military power. But the empire was built on conquest and war. The Ottomans were a warlike people, and they would go to great lengths to expand their empire. They would use any means necessary to achieve their goals, which often included violence and oppression. As the empire grew, it became more and more unstable. There were frequent rebellions, and the central government was not able to control all of the provinces. In 1922, the Ottoman Empire was finally defeated, and it was replaced by the modern state of Turkey. The Ottoman Empire fell because of the greed of its leaders. They were only interested in power and wealth, and they did not care about the people they were ruling over. This led to widespread discontent and eventually the empire's collapse. The Kingdom of France. France has a long and rich history. It was once home to some of the most powerful and influential monarchs in Europe. But the kingdom was built on conquest and war. The French kings would constantly fight with each other and with other European powers to expand their territory. This led to many costly and bloody conflicts, but it also led to the growth of the kingdom. By the 17th century, France had become one of the most powerful kingdoms in Europe, but this power did not last. By the 18th century, France was in decline. The kingdom was deeply in debt, and the people were unhappy with the monarchy. The French Revolution began in 1789, and it led to the end of the kingdom. The revolution was led by the common people who were tired of being oppressed by the monarchy. They overthrew the king and established a republic. The French Revolution was a major turning point in history. It led to the end of feudalism in Europe, and it inspired other revolutions around the world. The British Empire. The British Empire was the largest empire in history. It covered a quarter of the Earth's landmass, and it ruled over a quarter of the world's population. The empire was built on conquest and colonialism. The British would travel to far-off lands and take control of them. They would exploit the resources of these lands and the people living there for their own gain. But this wealth did not last. The British Empire eventually collapsed due to the cost of maintaining such a large empire. It also did not help that the people of the British Empire were becoming more and more independent. They no longer wanted to be ruled over by the British, and they began to demand more rights and freedoms. In the 20th century, most of the British colonies became independent, and the empire was no more. All of these empires were built on the greed of their leaders. They were only interested in power and wealth, and they did not care about the people they were ruling over. This led to widespread discontent and eventually the collapse of all of these empires. Greed is a powerful motivator, but it is also a dangerous one. When people are driven by greed, they will stop at nothing to get what they want. They will exploit others, and they will do whatever it takes to get ahead. But greed does not bring happiness or satisfaction. People who are driven by greed are never content with what they have, and they are always wanting more. This can lead to a lot of pain and suffering. We have seen this throughout history. The greed of just a few individuals has led to the suffering of millions. Greed is a major cause of poverty. When people are consumed by their own greed, they are not thinking about the needs of others. They are only interested in themselves and what they want. This can lead to a lot of inequality and poverty. Greed is also a major cause of war. When people are greedy, they are always wanting more and more. They are not content with what they have, and they are willing to fight to get more. This can lead to conflict with others who also want the same things. Greed is the root of all evil. When people are driven by greed, they will do anything to get what they want. They will lie, cheat, and steal. They will exploit others, and they will do whatever it takes to get ahead. So be careful of the dangers of greed. Greed is a powerful motivator, but it is also a dangerous one. When people are driven by greed, they will stop at nothing to get what they want. They will exploit others, and they will do whatever it takes to get ahead. But greed does not bring happiness or satisfaction. People who are driven by greed are never content with what they have, and they are always wanting more. This can lead to a lot of pain and suffering. So be careful of the dangers of greed. If you enjoyed this video, then check out more videos like this one. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.